Hello, genealogists. This is Craig, and this is Just Genealogy. I've been asked to talk about what books I would use for colonial Virginia research. And that's actually one of my favorite topics, so it should be very easy for me just to talk about it. You have to remember in genealogy, you always have to go from what you know. And a couple of problems with Virginia research. One of them is your research doesn't start in Virginia, and all you know is that they're from Virginia and you have to figure out where they're from in Virginia. That's probably the major problem because you always have to go from what you know, and not as many people stayed in Virginia as you might think. And the other problem about colonial Virginia research is that it's colonial Virginia research. Some counties are very well covered, some counties burned and are not very well covered, and sometimes you need alternatives. But you always have to get a lay of the land first. And there are a couple of books that are very good for getting the lay of the land of Virginia research. One of them is the National Genealogical Society Research in the States Guide to Virginia. That's an important book to have. I reference it every so often. Once you've used it a while, you'll get used to it and know where everything is in it. And after a while, you get to know what's in it. Another is a book called Virginia Genealogy Sources and Resources that's been updated in the past couple of years. And the books that I'll be talking about today, I'll put links down in the description for you so that you can find them and look at their descriptions so I don't spend a half an hour talking about a handful of books. And as I said, it's recently updated. It's published by Genealogical Publishing Company, a company that Heritage Books. I guess I should remind you that um, it's because of Heritage Books that I come to you when I finally do come to you. Uh, and it's Heritage Books that supports the opportunity for us to do this. And we appreciate all of our customers all the time. And we also sell Genealogical Publishing Company books. So, and this is one of them, as well are a few others that I'll talk about today. So, getting either of or both of these books will allow you to get a lay of the land. Now, there are a couple of specific books. Actually, they're pamphlets that might give you insight into things like uh, court systems and inheritance. And I should write that down on my notes so that I put those in the description that are available, that have come to us because the Virginia Genealogical Society put them together. And they're helpful, and those just came to mind, but they're pretty nuanced and pretty specific. Uh, but you will find that they're helpful. Also, is a book by the Virginia Genealogical Society on colonial handwriting in Virginia, colonial handwriting in Virginia. There also is a book by Kipsbury on uh, handwriting, also, and one by Stryker Road on handwriting. And all three of those together are pretty much run the gamut of what colonial handwriting looks like. And since they didn't have typewriters, you're going to have to deal with colonial handwriting. And the only way that you can deal with colonial handwriting is to constantly deal with colonial handwriting. Practice makes perfect. Uh, Sending words to people and asking them to tell, asking them to help you figure out what they are don't work very well unless you give them the entire context. A single word snap is just not going to work because many times it's the context that counts. The next thing I would look at is what county do I care about? Now, maybe I haven't established a county because, again, this person was in Kentucky and they said they were from Virginia, or Tennessee and said they were from Virginia, and I don't know what county they're in. My number one go-to resource for trying to figure out what county someone was in is Netti Schreiner-Yantis's 1787 tax list, and it sits right over here on my bookcase. And I use it actually every time I'm looking for somebody in Virginia. I could be looking for somebody in Virginia after 1800, after the colonial period, and I'm still going to look at the 1787 tax list. And you're going to say, well, 1787 is not the colonial period, Craig. And I will say to you, yes, but anybody who's on the tax list as a head of household in 1787 is probably 21 years old at least, so that will get them back to the colonial period. And what I also look for when I'm using this 3-volume set, largely I use the index, which is the 3rd volume. And unfortunately, this book is out of print, or there are just so few copies left that it's so expensive that you'll have to go to the library to use it, except that there are individual counties. So the secret is finding the index, finding out what counties people are in, and then going and purchasing the individual county booklets. So what I look for there is the surname distribution through the counties in 1787. And that helps me narrow down what's going on. Now, another thing that I might do is go to Torrance. And Torrance deals with wills in Virginia up to 1800. Now, there are other books by Pippinger that are 10 volumes that deal with wills after 1800, which are also very useful. But again, colonial period is what we're really talking about today. So Torrance, Index to Wills, I used in the same way to try to figure out what county somebody might be in. Now, having pretty much established the county, or hopefully established the county, I'm then going to begin to collect the books about the county, because you're not going to be able to do research in the county without books about the county. So the 2 places I'm going to go largely, well, the one place I'm going to go is Heritage Books, of course, but the books I'm going to look for are the marriage series done by John Vogt and William Keithley over the years, many years ago, and those are at the county level. There are also other marriage books. It doesn't cover everywhere, but a majority of them are the John Vogt marriage books. And I'm also going to look at the Antient Press books for the county if we are fortunate enough that Antient Press did books on the county. And largely, Antient Press did northern tidewater counties, northern neck counties for the most part. So you want to look for those. And those could be will books, they could be deed books, they could be order books. I especially like order books. Another set of books that I like for counties in the colonial period are road orders. And the Virginia Department of Transportation created many years ago several publications about road orders, which they gave permission to the the Virginia Genealogical Society to reprint, and Virginia had us do that, had Heritage Books do those for them. So those are available also. I also have a legacy talk on how to use road orders, a webinar on those, and I'll put that in the description also. Write that down so I don't forget. Can't help myself. So there's another set of books that I like to use, especially if I'm doing Revolutionary War research. Everyone in Virginia is in the militia unless they are levy-free. The court has determined that they're too old, they're infirm or whatever, and they don't have to serve anymore, but everybody's in the militia. So there are some opportunities for muster rolls and payrolls and those kind of things. Now, the 2 #1 sources in Virginia are Murdy June Clark's Colonial Soldiers of the South. And for those of you who aren't too interested in Virginia itself, there are people from New York in that book because those people served in the South in some British units. Unfortunately, that book is out of print and it doesn't look like it's going to be reprinted. So if you can find a copy of that book and you intend on being a supercalifragilistic Virginia researcher, you're going to need that book. Another is Lloyd Bachstruck's book on Virginia soldiers. And these are soldiers before the Revolution. I always want to see if somebody was a soldier before the Revolution, before they served in the Revolution. And both these books are Colonial Soldiers. Now, another book that probably you wouldn't think of using because it doesn't actually relate to Virginia is Hank Peden's book on Maryland colonial soldiers. And the reason I bring it up is because of the conflict between Cromwell and the king, we have royalists and we have, uh, I forget, roundheads or whatever they are. I forget what they are off the top of my head. Cavaliers, they couldn't be the Cavaliers. Anyway, we have, and what we see is a swapping of people between Virginia and Maryland in the 1600s. So if you find somebody in Virginia and all of a sudden you can't find them anymore, and it doesn't look like they imported themselves into Virginia, you want to look in Maryland, in Tidewater, Maryland, to find them. So I'll put that book in the description also. So there's two other series of books that you're going to want to get, especially if you're doing the deep dive into this kind of thing. And the first one is the 8-volume set of Cavaliers and Pioneers. These are the records of the Virginia Land Office. There is a thing called head rights, and if you import someone into the colony of Virginia and you pay for their passage, you get 50 acres. And recognize that most of the people coming to Virginia end up being indentured servants. People have to pay for their passage, they get head rights for it, that kind of thing. So 8 volumes, 3 published by the Library of Virginia, and the rest published by the Virginia Genealogical Society, and again, all available from Heritage Books. I use those often. They're important to Virginia colonial research because they let you know when people sort of arrive and sort of where they're going to end up. Sort of. Not specifically necessarily, but sort of. Now, what you can do, the worst part about doing this kind of talk is more things come to mind than you can imagine. There is 2 series of books, one by Joyner and one by Gray, and they deal with the Northern Neck. Now, Cavaliers and Pioneers, although there's a small supplement that deals with the Northern Neck, the Lord Fairfax's proprietary is not covered by Cavaliers and Pioneers. So you have to use Gray's Virginia land grants, Northern Neck land grants, and you have to use Joyner's surveys. Joyner's surveys are actually quite nice. I enjoy them very much. I actually like it those better than Gray, but you can figure out. Gray is by time frame, Joyner is by county and multiple counties, regional. So you want to look at those also. And those deal with land records. Now, these are all patents. So these are not deed books. So you would look for, if you saw a deed in like an Antient Press book and you couldn't find where that person got the land from, you might have to refer to Joyner or Gray to see if you could figure out where the patent was. Patent is where land is transferred from the government to an individual. A deed is where land is transferred from person to person. And then one last series of books, one last 3-volume set that makes my day, and it's probably my favorite of all the Virginia books, and that's Adventures of Person. Rather thick, rather expensive, but it covers 4, almost 5 generations of Virginians from Jamestown to about, well, my ancestors in it. I have a person who arrives in 1619, John Woodson. Many of you are related to John Woodson. I'm fortunate. If you know John Woodson's story, I'm a Tub Woodson and a Potato Bin Woodson both. And the way I learned that I always knew I was one because my grandfather told me that I was one, that I was a Potato Bin Woodson. But because of Dorman's Adventures of Person, I was able to establish that I was also a Tub Woodson. I have a marriage of 2 people in just about the time of the Revolution. Their name is Parsons. His name is Woodson Parsons. He is 5 generations removed from Woodson Parsons. And he marries a Mosby woman, Nancy Ann Mosby, who is also a descendant of John Woodson. And there are 5 different ways that they descend from John Woodson together. Explains a lot about me. And all of this is in Cavaliers and Pioneers. Excuse me, all of this is in Adventures of Person Person. I always get Cavaliers and Pioneers and Adventures of Person Person confused, and I shouldn't, because one's a beautiful green book, 3 volume set. I got my set is hardback. It comes in paperback now. Cavaliers and Pioneers hardback, and actually the full set of Cavaliers and Pioneers and the full set of indexes and torrents just exist about 15 feet away from me right now. So what I've attempted to do today is to give you some idea at a very sort of high level about what we can do about researching in colonial Virginia and what resources should be available to you to use from the perspective of books. Now recognize there are other things online that you can deal with. The chancery suits are online, and I should at some time talk about chancery suits because they helped me solve one of those Parsons problems that I had in that family I was just talking about. But anyway, so find the general books, Brunson's books on NGS's research in the states for Virginia, or McGinnis's book on Virginia genealogy sources and resources, or both of them. Determine what county they're actually in, and you can use Netti Schreiner-Yantis's 1787 tax list, or you can use Torrance Index to Wills to do that kind of thing. Then get the books for the county from the Iberian marriage books or others. Get the Antient Press books for the orders, the wills, the deeds. And there are also some tax lists that the Sparacios published as part of that series. The Sparacios have 550 almost books that they did. And they're all available from Heritage Books, mostly. So about 38 of them currently are out of print, and we're working on that. We've brought that number down quite significantly in the past year and a half. Don't forget the Colonial Soldiers, Boxtruck and Murdy June Clark. And don't forget Cavaliers and Pioneers, and if you're in the Northern Neck, Joyner and Gray, and then Adventures of Person Person. So this has been Craig. This has been Just Genealogy, and just a short talk about what books you can use on colonial Virginia. If you would like me to put together a talk on some other state about what I would use in the colonial period, or actually if you've got questions that deal with books that I think you should have, just ask me in the comments. Please avail yourself to the comments. I try to answer every comment that's appropriate. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would invite you to do so. I would invite you to tell your friends about Just Genealogy. I've sort of been on hiatus for a while. I've had some family issues that I've had to deal with for the past couple of months, and they put me in a position where I really couldn't easily do videos. So I'm on my way to Ohio. If you're at the Ohio Genealogical Society Conference this weekend being the second Saturday of April, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of April. Say hello. I'm easily recognizable, I think, if you don't know me already. And let me know you're a subscriber. I'll have a present for you. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.